Now, let's talk about the advantage that the unmanned aircraft brings, possibly for different types of scenarios. Now, even big budget films can experience a creative advantage with unmanned aircraft versus manned aircraft, and talk about creative options and that cost and what's the difference.
Okay. I'll start. The biggest cost savings can be when you're in a exotic location where getting a full-size helicopter to that location gets really expensive. There's two ways to get a full-size, 3,000-pound helicopter. You can fly it there, or you can put it on the back of a truck. And if you're someplace far from an airport or far from, major production hub where they have the right equipment, it can get really expensive. It's, $1,800 to $2,000 an hour for the helicopter. That gets really expensive if you're just flying to the middle of the desert, or if you want to film in Africa or someplace where there just isn't helicopter support. That can get really expensive really quickly, just getting it there. With our equipment, we put it in a bunch of Pelican cases, you put it in a truck, you put it in a cargo plane, you can get there relatively cost effectively. But if you're local, it's not necessarily the cost savings. These things are serious aircraft. These are not cheap toys. It's not a $1,500 day. The FAA makes us jump through more rules than we have to with the full-size helicopters, which is amazing, but it's true.
Hopefully that'll change in the next couple of years. But
So the overhead is significant. You can see some of these aircraft. These are not stuff you just buy at the hobby shop or put together in your garage. So the cost savings really depends on the shot, and you need to check. Don't rule out one or the other. Talk to somebody, actually all three of us who do both. We can work through it with you to figure out what the right answer is.
I think there's projects where obviously there's this new ability that that I think's taken the world by storm, where you can get a camera in the air for next to nothing. You can do it in your backyard off Amazon. There's that, but the people that we're dealing with, our clients, aren't coming from that world. They need to figure out the best way to achieve a shot, and especially on the larger motion pictures, it's really not. I think coming to anything from that cost perspective, when we get a phone call and it's about we can't afford a helicopter, that's the first thing that you hear. They're sometimes challenging, projects. I mean, it's not. I don't think looking at it as something that replaces a helicopter is really a good place to start. There are projects that, like I said, it's just going to be wonderful to get a camera up higher than you can on a stepladder, for instance, for not a lot of money sometimes, but. It's a tool on a huge production that I think everybody here can answer better than we can. You've got a whole day's shooting wrapped up in that gear. So saving money on that tool, it might affect you in other ways. I mean, the drones, they're wonderful at some things, but the big size helicopters, we fly around, we go. There's a big movie I did recently where they wanted to bring both these toys out, and they were in all these sand dunes out in the middle of this BLM land in Utah. And just covering the distance and taking the unmanned aircraft, you've now got everybody in the manned aircraft, they get in it and they fly around, and they're a self-contained little unit with the camera. Everybody's all together. They can go from A to B. We can do a shot over here and a shot 10 miles over here, back to back, which is a very different way of shooting things. With the drones, you've always got to figure out it's more like a crane or something where you're bringing all these people to a particular base, deciding on this shot that it's best to be operated from here for the pilot's point of view. It's such a different workflow. I mean, it's just night and day, and they're just really different tools, So I think there are some wonderful advantages, but I think you have to look at also the ways that it affects your production and how quickly you can get these shots done, and what really, on a shot-by-shot basis, just look at if it's the right tool to use. It's definitely the popular one right now.
I have to agree with both the gentlemen. As far as cost savings, I used to do a lot of IMAX stuff. It would have been great to have a couple of Pelican cases and have it with me in the middle of Indonesia, because you can't find anything. But in LA, for doing production around, I would look at what the shot list is and then figure out what the best tool is, and then you go price it out. And sometimes the cost difference is not that much.